Oh, hello everybody. Oh, what is this nonsense? Guthron streaming to his own channel. Since when did he start doing that? I mean, he just likes to stream on everybody else's channel, right? Isn't that how that's supposed to go? I mean, why else would he be doing anything else? Sorry, I was a little distracted this morning because of getting our car arrangements taken care of, so getting myself, all back in stream mode. Taking a little bit of my attention. Plus I wanted to add something to my media banner. I wanted to make sure that I got that before I went on. I meant to do it earlier and then just forgot. I'm doing an experiment this week with my part-time job. Whereas before I'd been skipping Mondays and Fridays. I'm doing a thing where on Mondays and Friday mornings I'm actually planning my day around. Pardon, I got something in my throat. No natal. Welcome in. No, scam likely. I'm definitely not going to answer. How's it going, No Natal? Appreciate you being here. And also Pixel Sharks, thank you for 14 months. Supporting the safest place on Twitch. And I suppose I should let you see me. You guys want to see me? Alright, I'll let you. If you insist. There I am. Monday after break is tough. You mean like fall break? Like you just gotta get out of or a vacation? Yeah, that you're not wrong. You are not wrong. I always I coughed on a piece of apple, and so because of my reflux, it kind of it can throw me off. Let's just put it that way. Fall break. Okay, so from okay, what level of school are we talking about? Are we talking primary, secondary, college, graduate, postgraduate? I'm going to assume something collegiate or below. Okay, and really it depends on college. I would actually assume. Okay, yeah, somewhere between high school and college. That works. Are you in England? Because I know that they have, what is it? College is different from university. Something. There's a thing between high school and university. Denmark. I mean, we'll see. It may be the same thing. Everybody, look out! The Danes are invading. So yeah, well, thanks for coming today. Thanks for the support. Well, in the U.S. there is no difference. In Great Britain there is a bit of difference. There's apparently a layer between when you graduate high school and when you actually go to university. That you have to. I guess there's some testing that happens in there. So when we had a British student living with us, she was well into university. She was in her third year. Her brother, though, was getting ready to go into university, or into that in-between thing between college and... Didn't realize how low that was for you guys. Back down just a little. So, I don't remember what it's called, and I'd have to actually look it up. I just remember that there is something between high school and university, and I think they call it college. Missed a lot of school during high school. That's why I'm taking extra courses. Hey, I am of the opinion, historically this has been a hot topic, because for a long time university was only for the wealthy, the elites, and then it became something that was only for a specific, in my country, for a specific race. Or I should say flavor of race, because we're all technically the same race. So the big push in the 20th century was to open college for everybody. Everybody should go to college. Everybody needs a college degree. College degrees help. They do. They really do help. But, I think the statistics show that getting a college degree can add $1 million $100 lifetime earnings to someone. So it's very, very clear that college helps. But not everybody is ready to go to college right out of high school. Some people are. But I would say that there's a large number of people who aren't prepared for college, who aren't ready for college. They're ready to just continue high school. Or they're ready to go and have fun, be as adults, but not be under, not be under family anymore. I would say, and then there are some people who going to traditional college is not what's going to work for them. That they need to work first to find out what it is they like. So I really wish that the emphasis would go back to that, of saying, hey, let's figure out what it is you really want, rather than just say you have to go to college. Maybe you should go. You have to go, but you should be free to do it later. So that's kind of a controversial opinion to have. Well, no. Okay, hold on. There is a difference between being prepared for and being ready. Okay, so prepared, I see that in this context as, have you actually prepared yourself enough to take the courses? Ready can also be used for that too. But when in this use here, what I'm talking about when I say ready is, are you ready for everything that college means? The dancing the dance to get the teachers to give you a grade, because that's what it is. You're not earning your grade based on your subject matter. You're dancing the dance, ready to take on the professors to convince them to get your grade. I once managed to write a 55-page paper overnight and got an A on it. How did I do that? This was my 3rd year with this professor, taking history classes with him, so I knew exactly how to write that paper so that I could get that grade. Now, should I put it off to the last minute? No. I actually underestimated how long it was going to be and how long it was going to take me. This was one of those times when I was glad my parents gave me a PC for my dorm room. Otherwise, it would have been, I wouldn't have gotten it done. Oh, thank you for that, Zoe. We appreciate it. So, yeah. But really, I mean, I was able to convince them to give me the computer a couple of years before that, because I was taking a course where we went to class every Tuesday, Thursday for this class. After the first class, so the very first one where you go in and meet the professor, and I knew the professor because I'd taken a different course with him. I took him backwards. After the very first class, every class from that point forward, there was a paper due for the rest of the semester. So I was constantly at the computer lab trying to get this stuff done. And my wife, then girlfriend, she wasn't sure what I was doing. She thought I was addicted to the internet, chatting and all that stuff, as it was back then. It was a very different world than it is now. And so she came one night to watch. And some of my friends were actually the lab monitors. So that she came and watched and sat down, and I was just writing papers all night long. She's like, how many of these do you have to do? It's like one every class, twice a week. Wow. So later that year, my parents gave me a PC for my room, and that pretty much saved me. We didn't really have internet in our dorm rooms then, so it was really just for papers. I think we could have if we wanted to do dial-up, but this is the 90s. Dial-up was the thing. Net Zero, I remember that. Net Zero, that's what we used to use in the dorms. That was... wow. So, but no, Natal, it's okay. You don't have... Some people don't realize that they're ready or prepared until they get there. And really, it comes down to what classes are you taking. If you get there and you're in a class and you suddenly realize that it's above your level, then that's just a matter of saying, okay, I need to exit this and go back a level. But yeah, I'd say there's a difference between being prepared to actually do college and being ready for the college experience. And I would say no one is really ready for the college experience, because it's not what everyone thinks it is. Just like, life in high school is not what everyone thinks it is based on what we see portrayed in media. And college isn't either. College is a whole different game, and it's not just about do you know the topic? Do you have the aptitude to learn more? Blah 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 blah. It really comes down to how well can you beat the professors at the game that they're playing to get that grade. I did not take if I were to be completely honest, when it comes to my bachelor's degree, I could count on one hand the number of courses I took and the 126 credits I ended up with that still in some way influence how I do things now. And most of that is in how I research particular topics. When I did my master's, the first 2 courses that we did, which basically expanded on the idea of how do you do research and how do you put a thesis topic together and put a paper together, basically filled in all the gaps that my bachelor's degree had left and did it much better. I did it in 2 courses. And so that what I learned from those also. When I went to college, I was going to get a bachelor's in creative writing, which, considering what I'm doing, what I would like to be doing, that probably would not have been a bad idea to stick with that. But when I got there, I got talked into changing my degree to biblical studies so that I could, be a missionary, blah blah blah, stuff like that. Because I was interested in doing translation to get that book into other people's languages, because there's still a lot. That's just, that I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I was in that degree for 2 years. So for 2 years, I could say I was going to college to get a BS, a Bachelor's of Science, in BS, Biblical Studies. And I said that all the time. It was so much fun. But about 2.5 years before I finished, my wife, then girlfriend, convinced me that I needed a skill. So I switched to history so I could be a history teacher. That didn't work out. And I decided that I did not want to teach in public schools unless I could fail people. I did not want to teach at a level that I couldn't fail people, because in public schools where we were, there was no failing people. So I decided if I was ever going to teach again, it was going to be at a point where I could fail people and make it hurt where it counted, in their wallets, or at least in their parents' wallets. So I wanted to teach at the collegiate level. Here's the problem. I got the degree. I got the master's degree in history. So I have a bachelor's in international studies, history, master's in global studies, also history. And then I have 3 associates that I got because of the Air Force. Arabic, intelligence studies and technology, and social service, social work. I have a degree in social work, specifically in a lot of training in how to get people the kind of intervention that they need. Here's the problem with how I did my degree. Most master's level students do their degree at the school. So while they are doing that degree, they are also doing classes, like actually filling in classes for teachers, which gets them teaching experience. So then when you're done and you go to apply to the college, maybe you want to do your postgraduate there, or maybe you just want to teach, they can see all those hours that you did, and that counts towards. But because I was working full-time in the military trying to get my degree, I didn't get any of those hours. So now when I go to apply for all those jobs, they just see me with no experience because I didn't do what everybody else did. See, that's what I'm talking about. The game that college is. It's just one big giant game that if you don't play exactly according to their rules, you're never going to benefit from it. There are no jobs that I can go to right now and say, I have a master's, a bachelor's, and 3 associates, and that's going to benefit me. Because how those degrees apply to the job I'm at, it changes. So it's frustrating. And those decisions that I made about getting those degrees, with exception to the social work one, the last one, which I got just on, I don't think they've actually conferred on it, but I've completed all the requirements that I needed. All of those degrees were a result of decisions made prior to the traumatic experiences that I had in the military. But now they are useless because I can't do the things that I was going to do with them. See, that's That's kind of what I'm talking about, neonatal, is do you really know what it is you want to do? No one really knows what they want to do at 18, 17, 18, 19 years old. No one. There are very few people who know. The ones who do, honestly, most of them are ahead of their peers, and so they're going to be there younger. But no, 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, they don't really know. Some of them have an idea, and maybe when they get to college, they start diving in and they figure it out. And that's kind of why colleges cram most of their degree, because they cram your degree with all this general ed. They want you to have a broad education so that you're a more well-rounded person. But most of that crap isn't going to apply to you. You're not going to use it at all. But the idea is that while you're taking all of that stuff and you're kind of dabbling in some of these other, in the different fields, you'll find what it is you're looking for. They do that in Germany. Now, Germany is actually very good about guiding students along a path that will get them. They can all go to college, but there are some that are more academically suited and some are more, I don't know the term for putting it, but they have more aptitude for doing skills than they do just doing academics. So you have two different paths through school from 5th grade on. Now you can drop back and forth between them. It's not like you're stuck in one. And when you get to the end, you can choose. Even if you're on more of a trade skill path, you could choose, hey, I'm going to college. Or you can get the trade skill, start working, figure out what it is you want to do, figure out what degree is going to help you, then get it. And that's what I was talking about, of not just taking an aptitude test, not just taking an interest inventory test. Those are good. Those are great. And those should be done those should be done earlier. Middle schoolers should do them. And then they should do them again when they get to high school so they can see if what's stuck with them. And then before they're making the decision to go to college, they can do it again. If they did it in, say, for the US, it's 9th grade. So when high school starts, they could do it again as they're entering 12th grade. And at that point, they'll have 3 different measures to see what has stuck through that I'm still interested in, and what options do I have when I go to college. I think we do a big disservice when we just pound into our kids, you have to go to college. You have to go to college. There were people that I went to school with who ended up being forced to take a bachelor's degree in general ed because they never picked a major, because they really didn't want to be there. But the strong interest inventory is often offered in some school settings. Yeah, it's good. And the thing I like, the part of the reason why I'm trying to make sure we stay in this school district that we're in right now, is my daughter she's benefiting from the idea that and a lot of the school districts are doing it, but they have a track through the 4 grades that that a kid can choose to go down, and they can choose, and it doesn't matter which high school has it, because you have school choice here. So you could have 3 different high schools in a district, and if one high school which isn't your closest high school, if one high school is offering the certification, a professional certification that your school isn't, you can go to that other school. No problem at all. Doesn't really matter inside the district. Obviously, if you want to go to another district because another school has what you want, then you're going to have to move over to that district or apply for a waiver. Because the people in this district, their taxes pay for these schools. The people in that district, their taxes pay for those schools. So that's why they have this district line nonsense. But she doesn't know yet, which is fine. She's only in 6th grade. She's got she's in 7th grade, sorry. So she's got 8th grade, the rest of this year and next year to figure out what kind of certification she wants. And I keep telling her she should look at something because she wants to do video games, particularly on iOS, and she wants to do stuff on the internet. So I'm pushing her down that road. Coding, machine building, I'll create content creation on the internet, things like that. I might personally take a business degree over a general ed degree if possible. I have a personal dislike. Well, pure arts majors are, you get so tied into whatever it is. The only reason that you're going to get a degree like in music or art is if you just have an absolute passion for that. Because even, let's say you get a degree in art, right? If you were to then say, apply to work at a museum of art, they're going to look at you and say, okay, you have a degree in art, and that's great. You have a degree in art history, that's great, but you don't have a degree in being a museum person. Librarians, you have to actually have a degree in librarian. There's a specific degree you have to get. Now, they will make exceptions for master's level stuff in some places. But yeah, there are so many degrees that out there, options, that you're right, it is really hard to monetize those, which is why I like it when schools, especially before college, are already putting this in the kid's head. You need to know before you go, or you're going to spend a lot of money and you're going to be paying it back for a long time. Actually, I need to update that thing from Guthrum, but that thing right there says 7,000, but as you can see by that number right there, I've now raised over 2,000 this year, so that's 9,000. Been a crazy year for Extra Life for me. So anyway, that's not what we were I was going to talk about today, but I don't mind it, neonatal. Whatever you choose to do, just remember there are always options. You're not tied to something just because you start down one path. A lot of people go and take all the general stuff that they cram into a degree, all the extra stuff, and they do that because they need time to figure it out. And since they know they're going to have to take all of those things, they just cram them into the first or second year. And they dabble in a couple of things that they think they might be interested in. You could do that too. Yeah, I didn't have an option to do a language because I was homeschooled. But when I went to college, I did Greek, Koine Greek, so ancient Greek. Basically the legal language and the educated language of the Roman era, and for a while after. But yes, I very much appreciate a system that can be flexible rather than be rigid. The problem we have here is that the colleges are just absolutely tied to this model of, and the high schools too, that basically high school is a college feeder system. The idea is to get the student ready for college so that they can then go to college. And the colleges will, it's kind of this quid pro quo thing. Quid quo pro, I can't remember how to say it. The high schools focus on getting their kids to go to college because the universities will benefit, the colleges will benefit from all the money coming in. The universities will then train some of those students to be teachers and send them right back to the same districts. So they're kind of doing this little trade-off thing of, you keep pushing your kids to come to us so we can make tons of money off of them, and then we'll send the ones that are interested in it and capable of it back to you as much as we can. And this was a huge problem where my wife and I were teaching when I was a teacher, was the district was basically forcing everybody to go through one specific university to get their teacher licensure, which was the equivalent of 30 master's level credit hours. And at that point, you were only two classes, so six credit hours, 2 classes away from another master's. So why not? It was this vicious little cycle that they had people trapped in. If you wanted to do a different one, they made it harder. It was just, it reeked of nepotism and corruption. And I frankly am very much against the whole student loan process. Not because I don't think that that colleges need to be paid. I definitely think that. I think that there's a lot of extra that they're squeezing in there to justify their paychecks, but not against colleges making money to stay afloat. And state universities get a lot of funding from the government, but I think the idea that the schools get all of the money up front so that they're paid and they don't have to worry. They don't have to worry about, is this gonna, if the student succeeds or fails, they get their money. And if when they ask you those questions, like if you were president for a day and you had all of the necessary things set in place to pass anything that you wanted to pass, what would you pass? And a lot of people go, I'd pass gun control, I'd pass blah blah blah. I would change the entire student loan system so that colleges did not get a dime of the student loan money until the student not only passed, not just passed, maybe they don't pass, maybe they change their mind and go somewhere else, but until they pay it back. Because every time we increase over here in the States, every time we increase funding to help people get to college, the colleges all raise their tuition to match that. So we have the Pell Grant here that has been going up and up and up to kind of fill in gaps, to fill in tuition gaps for schools that are just a little too expensive. And a lot of people can apply for it, but every time they increase the Pell Grant, the colleges increase their tuition to match. So you're just gaining nothing out of it. The colleges are getting more money, the student is still in debt. So changing the system so that they have to completely sit without the money until the student pays the government back before the government gives it to them. I mean, and they can even pay it in increments. Okay, he paid off one semester, so here, college, there's that one semester. He paid off 1 year, here's that year. And I think you would see immediately colleges would start slashing the fluff that they've built in to those credit hours, that the expenses, so that they wouldn't, so they could get their money sooner. But full disclosure, yeah, I know they are, but it's easier to do in a small country like that. Not so easy here in a place where we essentially have 50 separate countries joined together in a federal republic. Texas has laws about their schooling that do not apply in California. You cannot take California rules and apply them here. It's just that's not how it works. New Mexico is a border with Texas. New Mexico's rules there more mirror Arizona and California than they do Texas. So, yes, but see, if you're willing to pay the taxes to get the benefit, then that's good. The problem with Americans is they're allergic to paying for anything. They don't want to be taxed. If you go back and look it up, Donald Duck and Mickey Mouse were used to sell the American public back in the 30s and 40s, basically the first half of the 20th century, on the idea of having their income tax withheld so that they didn't have to pay it themselves later, just have it automatically withheld. Mickey Mouse was used to actually pass the idea of an income tax, and then Donald Duck was used to convince people that having your money withheld and then getting it back if you fall under the rate. And the way they sold it, there were these little comics that they would put up on posters in the cities, and these little comic cartoons where he said, "Don't tax him, don't tax me, tax that man behind the tree." Meaning we're going to tax the rich. We're not going to tax you. We're going to tax the rich, which was never true. But yeah, Americans are very allergic to paying most taxes. There are some taxes they don't mind paying, like property tax, because property tax is primarily used to fund schools. You're not going to find a single person who actually owns property that's going to say, maybe they can say, I don't like paying property taxes, or maybe the property taxes are too high, but what the money is used for, they're like, no, that's perfectly fine. We need to pay for our schools. Yeah, that's Europe. Europe is completely okay with that idea. I have a lot of friends. I have a very wide, diverse friendship. On purpose, I've distilled it that way, so I can see a lot of different points of view. Even the people who are for the idea of having the government pay for things are allergic to paying taxes. Because I don't know many rich people. I know a lot of middle class, lower class people. So they're all the ones who, let's just have the government pay for it and tax the wealthy. So even the people who like the idea of having the government pay for more things don't want themselves to be taxed. There's this dichotomy that Americans have. Privatizing education, it just depends, because we already have privatized education. We already have schools here that are completely private. Harvard University, for example, they earn enough from their public endowment fund that they could let anybody in that they wanted to, give them a free ride, and it still wouldn't put a dent in the income that they're earning from the endowment. And then they have a program that they want to bring people who would not otherwise have access to that class, that level of education. They want to bring them in, but they still, in some ways, charge them for something or give them a scholarship to cover most, but they're still, when they wouldn't need to do that. Harvard makes so much money from their endowment fund that every student, undergrad, graduate, postgrad at that school could be completely, they have all of their education for free, and it still would not put a dent in their earnings. Yes, well, see, that's why in Texas, the system that they have here, because you end up with that, you see people dropping their kids off at a private school that they're paying to put their kids' school, but their property taxes are also paying for the public school down the road. So we had someone on one of my streams last week where we were talking about that. They were complaining about the fact that private schools were making it hard for everybody to get the, they had the better education, they had the better access to teachers and blah, 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 blah. And so they were complaining about the parents who did that, who chose to put their kids in those schools rather than keep them in the public schools and put their money there. And I reminded them, the next time you see a parent dropping their kid off at a private school, remember, they are not just paying for that kid to go to that school. They are also paying their property taxes to pay for all the other kids to go to school at the public school down the street. They're paying twice. People don't think about that. But in Texas, you choose where you go. There's a difference between here and, say, California. You can pick whatever. You can do a private school. You can do charter school. You can do public school. You can do of your choice. You can do homeschool under legal requirements. They have legal requirements here for it, how you do it. You can do any of those choices. And what you're paying from property taxes into it allows you to choose. Even people who are renting are still paying property taxes because we're paying the people that own the land and they're paying the property taxes. So, wow, that was a topic. We've been going for half an hour on that. No, Nadal, I don't envy you. It's a hard decision to make. I did not know what I wanted to do when I went to college. I thought I did, and it turned out that I didn't. That changed. I'd committed to getting a creative writing degree, and considering what I do now, imagine how much that creative writing degree could have helped me. And there's a lot of jobs that I look at that if I'd had a creative writing degree, I would have a huge advantage going into them. No. There was a topic that I wanted to talk about, but you came in and you were talking about it. And remember, this is a space for everybody to come in. There's a reason why I put in my little announcement thing. This is the safest place on Twitch because everybody to come here and feel like they can talk, they can take part, not feel judged or anything like that. So if this is the topic, we're going to go with it. You can tell by what's on either side of me, all I was planning on doing today was, can't get my fingers right, that way. Oh, over there. I was planning on doing some creative writing stuff, if we got to that. You have an atypical college experience as well. 10-year break. I'm back to finish. See, my wife actually graduated with a general ed degree because she got sick at the end. The stress of the work was so bad. I honestly had to call her dad. I was in Korea at the time. I had to call her dad and say, if you do not go get her, she might not come back. It was that bad. She was mentally unwell and physically unwell. Her dad had to pack her up. They had to get a special exemption for him to go into her dorm because males weren't allowed in the female's dorm, for him to go into the dorm and pack all of her stuff up and take her home. She doesn't remember her graduation. I don't think she attended it, actually. Like the actual graduation ceremony. And when she left, she had a bachelor's degree in general ed. It was just a bachelor's degree. Because that was how the education degree there worked. It was only an education degree if you had the teacher licensure. So I think she had to turn in one project was all she had left to do. And she did that the next semester before we got married. And then she was trying to get her student licensure done. It took her 3 years to get it. But once she did, now it's easier to like she just got her teacher's license in Texas over the summer. It was actually a piece of cake for her. It was, the person who did it said it was one of the easiest, so. But she had let that lapse because she was stay at home. She had a full-time job that was raising our daughter, and considering the challenges that I see her face with kids that she's helping right now who don't have what my daughter had in her, it's like every time she goes to work, she gets reminded of how good of a job she actually did. when you're in the middle of it, you don't think about that. I actually kind of prefer doing college distance. I think I enjoy that better. And having it be an actual program where there are graded requirements and deadlines and stuff is very helpful. I've tried to do some of those online training things that you can do to get to build towards, some kind of certification, or just to learn how to do something, like Coursera and all that stuff. And the openness, the sheer just, there's no deadline, there's no structure. It stabs me in the back every time, because I just think I don't have to do this right now. I don't really have to do this right now. There's so much else I could be doing. And so I'm doing online courses too, but I don't like it very much. It's difficult. It's an entirely different challenge. People think that doing things like working from home or taking courses from home, oh, it's so much nicer. You don't have to commute. You can sit around in your pajamas, blah, 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 blah. Well, guess what else? You're at home with all of your distractions, family, pets, games, TV, other responsibilities, and maybe even a part-time job or a full-time job. It's not necessarily better. It's just different. Yeah. And trying to work from home, as I've had for the past 2 years, I've gotten a crash course in just how hard it is to stay on task. That's why I'm doing an experiment this week with loosely working on one assignment on Monday and one assignment on Friday for my job, to see if I can knock out about, 20% of my work. Shave the Monkeys, welcome in. Welcome to the Rat Pack. Welcome to the safest place on Twitch. We welcome you. There's some cheese somewhere. You're a rat, find it. But the idea is this week I'm trying to, during Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'm trying to focus on, can I actually keep myself because I do transcription, audio transcription. I get paid by the page per hour. Yes, it is. You are not wrong, Noah. You are not wrong. RD Mac. Your girlfriend's Twitch name is Shave the Monkeys. Tell her that is amazing. And welcome in, RD Mac. It's appreciated. Yeah, you are not wrong. It's so easy to get distracted too. It's so easy. But yeah, this week I'm trying this experiment of where I do one assignment on Monday morning, one assignment on Friday morning. Because Monday and Friday is when I try to be creative. I do the stuff that you see right there. I edit my novel, and I'm trying to get as much as I can done on this video game project, so I can turn this part in. Because I'm under contract. They're actually paying me based on installments, so it's kind of important that I get the next one done. So, but then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are either work totally throughout the day. Like Thursday is work out. I don't have anything scheduled on Thursday. It's how many pages can I get in, and can I get it to keep it at the 10 pages an hour, so I can knock out what I need to knock out in 4 or 5 hours and not have to spend the entire day doing it. And Tuesday, Thursday, I have the morning on Tuesday, but not really in the afternoon because I have a stream on another channel on Tuesdays. And then Wednesday, I have therapy at 3 o'clock. So I have until then. So the experiment is, can I get myself up to 10 pages an hour and get to 20 hours? Because if I do that and I can maintain that, then for one thing, I'll get a pay rate increase. Yay, that's always good. But doing it from home, it's so hard. Plus, I'm now the stay-at-home, so it's my job to get the kid out the door in the morning. I also have a service dog that I'm training, which is a full-time job in and of itself. Piers Anthony, I love Piers Anthony. Yeah. It's this idea where you shut down everything else, nothing else, and you just go. Yeah, you say that, but I mean that's if I want to get close to, if I want to get to my next pay rate increase, I have to be hitting 10 pages an hour, and I've got to do at least 20 hours. Actually, I could probably get away with 17. Well, the thing about Piers Anthony was he was basically, he didn't have to think about all of those things himself, because the readers, after I would say his first 2 trilogies, and with Piers Anthony, a trilogy is a 9-book series. With his first 2 trilogies, but especially his first one, that was all him. Second one, I think he started to incorporate some of the ideas from readers, but more of them. But it was still more his own, and he was kind of just telling the next generation story. By the time he got to the 3rd trilogy, it was very obvious he was starting to run out of ideas, and he was just relying on readers. That said, one of my favorite books in the entire series, Yon Ill Wind, is from the 3rd trilogy. Oh, he's clearly a successful writer. And if I had the freedom in terms of income-wise to do that, to focus on that, I could probably do that. But right now I have to be more narrowed in it. And it's really hard because if I don't get a certain number of things done a day, I can start to spiral, which is why this is here. I've mentioned it before, but I'll say it again. This right here is this constant reminder to me, not for me to brag, but for me to remind myself I accomplished something. Just like I always keep my copy of this nearby to remind myself that I did do this. Multiple series, books and books and books. Yeah, I've really only read his Xanth stuff. I only liked Xanth. I didn't like any of the other stuff he wrote. But yeah, but I mean, when I'm doing the full-on productivity, I can't have Twitch. Sometimes I can have Twitch when I'm doing some of the less intensive work, but when I'm doing the full-on audio work, Twitch has got to be, I'll have someone stream up so I'm a viewer for it, but they will be minimized and off to the side. I will not see them. Sometimes I'll put them on another desk space and I will completely mute the tab so I can't hear them. No, I won't have Steam open so no one can talk to me. I won't have Discord open. But the only way people can get a hold of me at that point is on my phone, and then only if they are family. Everyone else I just tap ignore. So, and it works. When I can do that, it feels so good because I get so much done. But when it doesn't, it's like this spiral effect that you just, okay, well, look at me. I've failed yet again to keep myself on task. Nobody here to do it. So, no natal, that idea of trying to get yourself together to get things done, it's hard. It's really hard. Oh, and Shave the Monkeys, RD Mac, I'll also say about that 10-page thing. This is, when I'm talking about 10 pages an hour, I'm listening to phone calls where people will talk over each other, or there will be an interpreter present, although I try to avoid those files, or there will be other kind of background noise or things. Now, I have a really good ear for this stuff because I did it as I was trained by the military to do this on a different language. Doing it in English is cakewalk for me compared to doing it in another language. But it really does. 10 pages an hour is the average. If you can get above that, you're doing really well. 10 pages an hour is basically that's your average. That's your C. For me, 10 pages an hour is good. I'm getting better so I can get faster. So you've had some success using specific productivity. Yep, I've done that. I do that. The music that you hear in the background faintly, I'll turn it up for you guys. So that music is my writing playlist. It's a specific set of music that will not over-engage my brain, but encourage me to be thinking and focusing. And most of it's video game stuff. But I have it slowed down to 30% on the stream because I don't want to have this. I don't want to have the stream muted in the VOD for people that will catch it. So I've got that. I've done binaural beats. I've done that a lot. In the morning, I need to reset it up, but I have the sun station. So in the morning when I'm sitting here working, I have the light coming down, so I'm getting the vitamin D. what type of music, the stuff that I'm using, this stuff is just for me. This is stuff that I found works for me. To give you an idea, I've got the RimWorld soundtrack, all of the Stellaris soundtracks, all of the Riven, Mist, everything by, why can't I remember his name right now? All of the Mr. Robot stuff, the music. I'll see it when I get to, there's Mist, yeah, and then the guy that did The Social Network. It's a pair. I can't think of them right now. And they also did the Ghosts thing. He's the lead singer from Nine Inch Nails. It just depends on the music you pick. You can actually find music. You could just go to YouTube and find, if you go to music and you find stuff that says it's for promoting study and you go listen to it, it's not gonna be music like what you're used to hearing. And you won't really hear the things. You need to do it with earphones though for the binaural stuff to work. You won't really hear the frequencies that they're pumping into each side of your brain. But the music is very calm, and it's something like you would hear honestly, it's something that you would hear at a spa. Yep. I was just catching up, just seeing what everybody was saying. And hey, no natal music might not work for you. You might need to have just some kind of noise going. Okay, so like when I sleep, I have to have a certain level of static noise going on in order to sleep. Something you can try is finding a YouTube channel of static and just setting it at a lower level and then just go. Sometimes what I will do is I will have, especially when I'm writing, we'll have one of those binaural things going but they're just playing a sound. It's a tone. But if you just listen to it, can actually start to give you a headache. And you turn it down so you can just barely hear it. Just barely hear it with the other music. And then the other thing. But then what I'll put on top of that is I will load the 24-hour sound YouTube video of the Enterprise, either the Enterprise D or Deep Space Nine or Voyager. I tend to try to do the ships, and I love the Enterprise one, and it'll just play. Just, it's not too loud, and then that other sound is just below it, and then I'll just do that for hours. Sometimes I'll even layer a bit of ambient music on top of that. So then I have all of that sounds. It's just a matter of you just have to find what works for you. No, Natal, when I went to college, I couldn't pay attention in class. So you want to know what I did to help me pay attention? I cross-stitched. It took about 2 years for me to realize I needed to do something with my hands that wasn't too mentally engaging. So I went and started cross-stitching. And one of my teachers actually thought I was cross-stitching the answers, because I would set the thing out on the table in front of me, the desk in front of me, when I was taking a test. And if I got lost, if I couldn't think of the answer, I would look at the cross-stitch, and I would start using the cross-stitch as a neural map to find the information, because I'd heard it at some point. So I would look at it and I remember, okay, I cross-stitched that tree branch, and we were talking about this guy who played this role at this battle, and then and I would just use it as a backtrack. Yeah. I still, I don't know if we still have it. There's a cross-stitching I did of Dar Beida. That's, crap, I forgot the name. Casablanca, which means the White House. Dar Beida, White House in Arabic. It's just a smidgen of it. But I remember the football game I was watching. Now, I can't remember who was playing, but I can see the plays when I look at that thing and look over it. I can remember, okay, that was a pass, that was a sack fumble, I still remember. Yeah, it's hard. College is all geared towards auditory learners. It really is. It's unfortunate. You can also do little things like, there's a seat thing that you can put underneath you where you have to maintain the balance. I stand, so I'm constantly moving, but like this. Keep checking my posture. I spend most of the day like this, staring at that screen, so I'll look over here to the sides for some superfluous things, but I stare at that screen right there. Yeah, well, that's because, remember, people have this idea of what they think looks like studying. This is a boundary issue. There's a great book series. It's done by Christian authors. So take that for what it is. But the idea that they're going on is that we all have these boundaries. Now, actually, I don't even know if I would call this being distracted, because I didn't even start on my topic. Neonatal. I keep wanting to say neonatal. Is your name in any way connected to the to neonatal, meaning post birth? Now, see, I just lost my train of thought. Now you could type that. On the type. So it's not connected to that. Yeah, so that thing is on. If you guys think I'm distracted, you can type that. It's pronounced nonatal, like in horizontal. So nonatal. Okay. So thank you. Thank you for nonatal. Almost like no, not at all. No, not all. Okay. So no, not all. You were saying, okay. So the idea of a boundary. Now think about what a boundary around a house does. A fence line around a house, a property line. That defines what is your space to take care of, what you can be taxed on. Okay, but if you say no, not all, then I'm going to try to say no, not all. I don't make any promises, but generally once something has been brought up to me and I talk about it for a little bit, I'll remember it. So the idea of the boundary is it defines you. What is you and what is not you? So what is your land? What is not your land? What is your space? What is not your space? What is your issue? What is not your issue? When someone looks at you drawing, sitting there drawing, in their mindset, because if they were drawing, they would be distracted. They wouldn't be paying attention. So they look at you and they see you drawing and they say, he's distracted. So they go over and tell you off. That's a boundary issue. Because they are basically taking over for you and telling you what you should be doing. Unsolicited, which makes it even worse. That series, that book series is just great. Yeah, but you're really going to see this idea of how many people are boundary breakers. Everybody is. In some way, shape, or fashion, everybody is. But you'll see the most egregious examples of it in professional relationships. So teacher-student, coworker, boss, especially boss to employees. There's lots of them there. But one of the things that the whole series focuses on is this idea of it doesn't matter if they're a boundary breaker, because what matters is are you. And if you enforce boundaries on yourself, you'll learn how to set boundaries for yourself and then find ways to establish those boundaries for yourself with other people. You're going to find that they will then start doing the same thing. So you've affected them in a way by taking care of yourself. So knowing your limitation, knowing that I know that I cannot be out and about for too long. I have to eventually stop and be away from people or I'm going to get overwhelmed. I can't do it. It just, every time I think I'm getting better, I'll go to our church, which is a massive church, and oh my word, it's also a community center. It's open all the time. It's open 12 hours a day, every day of the week. There are people there all the time just hanging out, using the free Wi-Fi. There's a coffee shop there. There's a kids play area there for parents who just want to give their kids something to do while they go sit at a couch and work on some stuff. They have rooms that you can check out for free to do meetings and things, and they have a clinic for the poor. This is a busy, busy place, and on Sundays even more so. And yesterday I was trying to get to this meeting for my daughter, and nobody could figure out that I needed to get through. And so I was pinned. I was hemmed in. I was cornered by like 50 people. I couldn't get through. I couldn't get away, and it left me shaking and shivering. And I needed my wife, because my dog is still learning, but he's not. When I get overwhelmed to that point, he's not quite there yet for how he can take care of me. So my wife has to step in, and I had to just basically bury my face in her neck and just squeeze her until I felt better. There was just nothing I could do about it. So But that's a boundary for me. That's a limitation for me that I have to understand, that I can't continue to do. If I push myself, I'm going to get overwhelmed, and then other people are going to be subjected to what happens if I have to start, I don't know, like taking care of myself in a way that's not polite. So, but yeah, so all of that from your drawing thing, that is a boundary thing where someone else is imposing upon you their standard for themselves of what you should, what busy looks like, what focused, what working looks like. It's difficult to balance. It's a difficult concept to master publicly, but you can start with it, doing it internally. And you don't, honestly, you don't even really need to read the series. If once you understand this idea of this is what is me, this is what is not me, and you just keep approaching everything with, is this really me? Is this really mine? Is this my problem or is this their problem? Am I contributing to the problem? Am I in some way causing it? As long as you're focusing on what it is that you're doing in this particular situation and how maybe you need to create a boundary of, this is not my problem. I can only listen. I cannot fix this. There, boundary. And well, by doing that, you become someone who is creating a safe space. Oh. Well, I went way off the rabbit trail on that one. I'm particularly bothered by people who look at others who are trying to cope with their inability to learn through auditory delivery by drawing or sketching or whatever. That one bothers me a lot, because if I'm sitting here doing something with my hands, you think I'm not paying attention. Instead of telling me how I should be paying attention, question me on the subject matter. Ask me a question about it, and then ask it again later to see, am I still? Because that way you're creating this idea of, I'm going to ask you these questions and you need to determine if you're actually paying attention. And if you're not, and I can demonstrate that you're not by just asking these questions, then you should, as a person, realize, you probably will, you'll realize, I'm not really paying attention. So yesterday I was watching a video on safe people at a class, and I needed to send a message to somebody. And so the thought process of thinking about that message, I missed about 30 seconds of the video. It was completely gone. And so I was going to just sit there and keep waiting for checking the messages to make sure that, if I got a response. But I realized I wasn't listening anymore. That was too much. Now, had I just been sitting there playing 2048 or Canasta or shooting dinosaurs with little DNA collectors, I would have been fine. But I was too engaged with what was going on, having to think about what I was saying and things. So I had to moderate myself. And you think drawing, I think people are becoming a little more familiar with the concept of drawing being a way of a fidget that allows you to stay focused. Imagine what it would be like if that same person saw you on your phone doing something. You could just be doing this thing where you're just specifically tapping. I think I've even seen an app where they put these places where you're supposed to tap. You just move your thumbs back and forth around. You tap and it's always got it's one side and the other, and you just keep tapping, and it's just a fidget. It's not really taking too much concentration. You're just, oh, my thumb goes there. Oh, my thumb goes there. And sometimes it's the exact same spot back and forth. So you just know forward, up, down, up, down. And that's all you're doing. And that allows you to focus. But anyone who sees your thumbs on the screen is going to think you're writing messages. Now, I could go on a long time on boundaries and how not having boundaries makes you an unsafe person for people to be around. That's a whole topic on and of itself. But I think I've gone a little too long on that one. So, I should give the update. So you can see it below, Extra Life. I have now cleared my 5th goal. My goals to start out were 500, 1,000, 1,500, and then if we made it to 1,500, top my previous best, which was like 1,530 or something. Top my previous best. So those were the 4 goals. After that, then the next two goals were 2,000, 2,500. Numbers that I did not think I would come. I honestly didn't think I'd make it to 1,500 this year. But then over the past couple of weeks, so many people from my coworkers in the past to family and friends have just come in, and random strangers. That says Facebook donor. I actually know who that person is. But some of them, they'll have a name on there. I don't know who that is. I've gone and looked at the email that they used to sign up with. It doesn't say anything. Now, obviously, I know who mom and dad are. So just even random strangers have been donating. So it's kind of amazing that a year that I thought I was probably just going to have to settle for a silver medal, which is fine. It still shows I raised a lot. Suddenly I'm raised more than I ever before, and now I have to dye my hair blue and do the entire and play a game I dislike during Extra Life. Oh darn. So, but I just wanted to say thanks, everybody, and there is a goal for the 2,500, and the bot, when it shares the link about checking out my Extra Life page, you can see it there. So, no natal, if you're still paying attention, when do you go to college? Is it like next semester, or are you kind of in it but not, or is it next year? I was just curious how far out we are. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and over. Oh, didn't work. Hold on. Of course it's not working. I don't really know why it's not working. Wow. Every single one of these is just... Except for the microphone one. Every single one of these is... So that's working. But, I mean... I started this stream with these buttons working. That's how I went from start to the talk scene. And now they're just not working. Sometimes I really don't understand. Oh. I really need to put these on different pages. So here, I'm going to show you guys what I'm talking about because I talk about this all the time. This is Stream Puppy. I love how when it's up there, you can see through. It's because the green screen effect is still on. That's great. So look, guys, see the buttons? No, you see the text in the background. You see what's behind me. That is amazing. That is amazing. So the problem is here. So the top 5 and 2 over here, these 2 buttons right here, are all for my stream. The bottom row is all for Extra Life, and I was sitting here tapping the Extra Life ones. I need to put the Extra Life ones on a different. All right, so once more, look at this. Can't believe I did. There we go. That's where we were trying. That's where I was trying to go. Not sure you're taking things slow. You're still recovering. Did you mention earlier what recovery was for? I'm sorry if I missed it. But how is recovery going? That's the topic I was going to talk about today. Was in the course of recovery, one of the inevitable things that you're going to face is the concept of relapse. And it's not like it's something you can predict. You don't know when it's going to happen. I've had it happen to me twice. And the reason I'm flying solo today is because Cellist Mike is not only suffering a major relapse, but he's also actually physically sick. So that was why I was going to talk about that. And you're mentioning recovery. Is this a physical injury? I mean, if you don't want to share, no, you mentioned recovery, so I wasn't sure which way it went. Oh, Zoe. Oh yeah, this Friday. Wow. This Friday's going to be big. I'll talk about that later. Sometimes those things go hand in hand, the body and the mind connected. Yeah, you are not wrong. Yeah, he pushed himself. well, if you're not ready, you're not ready. No, I was just curious if, at this point I didn't want to know if it was specifically. I was just curious if this was a physical or a mental, psychological challenge that you were facing. So, but you do not have to share. But going back to what I was just talking about, the mind and the body, you are not wrong, Noah. He doesn't mind me talking about this stuff. He pushed himself, he challenged himself, and he did not come out of it. I knew that it was going to be difficult for him when he did it, but I think he psyched himself out. He made a mistake and he psyched himself out, and so then recovering from it became difficult. And I've done this. I know what this feels like, where I tried to do something and the job that I had last year this time was writing content for a content creator's site. And I would try, and I just kept making mistakes, missing deadlines, and it didn't matter how much I succeeded. Whenever those little challenges came along, it would just completely send me into a spiral, which it did happen. Although the spiral didn't happen until I was deployed. And it didn't hit its full force until I came back last Christmas. So actually, this would be the job I had at this time 2 years ago. Because I lost the company refused to keep me on when I had to deploy. Which technically is illegal, but I was a contractor. So but that idea of once you start rolling, once the ball starts, going one way, it's hard to stop it. That thing, it builds up. Hey, Noah, don't sell that short. Seeing things can be as traumatic as more. I'm not going to go into the details, but I can tell you that primarily the reason why I have the challenges that I have now are because of things that I witnessed. Some of it's also things that I took part in, but it was, when I was doing my training as a chaplain assistant, one of the things they talked about was the idea of first responders and people who are taking care of other people being exposed to trauma and seeing something that you're not used to seeing, that's out of the ordinary, that is a difficult thing to process. That is completely understandable. I remember the first time I saw a dead body. I wasn't prepared for it. I didn't realize it was coming. I didn't understand what I was going to be facing. And it caught me off guard so much so that I still remember. I still remember the road I was on. I still remember the state I was in. I still remember what it looked like. It sticks with you. The synchronicity of the event. So you chose a different way. Yeah. So you made a decision that had you just done your normal thing, you wouldn't have faced this. And because you made that decision, you witnessed something that you probably wouldn't have seen normally. But in this particular case, had you just made the decision that you always had, you wouldn't. Yeah. So you're facing that. Not only did you trying to process what you saw, but also the idea of how your choice puts you in that position. Yeah, I get it. I understand. It's very real. Don't underestimate it. It is very real. And having a place that you can talk, someone you can talk to, is probably going to be very beneficial for you. So if you have a person that you can to just talk about it, I would definitely recommend that you seek them out to talk about it. Maybe it's a Discord channel where you talk to people. Maybe it's something else. You have to determine that one. Why is that? Well, I think it's because she's on the... Yeah. Steam Pup is on the other thing. Or T-Pup. That's it. It's T-Pup. As a person who... Yes. Well, yeah, and you see something that makes you realize that how fragile and life is, it's going to make you start thinking about those things. You can't not think about it, and so you start questioning all kinds of things. I've had to do some serious soul searching when it comes to my faith and the role that plays in what happened, and how I process it, handle it, and as a result, because that spiritual life isn't just my personal thing, it's that there are other people who are present in it who then comment and stuff like that. So it's a complex issue. But I will say this. I think this is it. We do have a channel in our Discord that if you're not in it, you want to be in it, just mention, DM me on Discord, and I can give you the role that will allow you to go in there so that you can talk about things. There's a voice channel and there's just a text channel. So, and pretty sure I have it set so that you can't read the message history. So when you're done and I take take that role away, you won't be able to go back in there, and if someone else goes in, they won't see your history. I have to test that, but pretty sure that's because I know somebody went in and talked with Chalice Mike already, and I didn't see any history, so I think they were doing voice. So, yeah, and there are other places on Discord, larger communities who do the same thing. It's really amazing to see how the Twitch community at large is so sensitive to the mental health and mental awareness. So much so that Twitch has given them their own categories. When they took all those categories away for you to identify your streams, put your stream in, they made sure they kept mental health and mindfulness. Which actually, I don't think I changed my things for today. I should probably go do that. As I said, last minute there was a bunch of things that came up, and I was trying to wrap them all up. So mental health and mindfulness. There we go. Minimize that. But yeah, it could take a while. It really can. As much as I'm willing to say that there are some things that I know I need to talk about, there's a world of difference between saying I know I need to process this and actually processing it. It's different for everybody. It really is. You can't compare your recovery or someone else's recovery to the recovery of a different person, because everyone processes things differently. There are many of my coworkers from my previous life who they just weren't affected the same way by what happened, or they were, but they're not ready to process it. They can't focus on it. They can't let themselves because there's something else going on. Everybody is so different when it comes to this. There are some commonalities that help that you can do, or the common categories. Let's say trauma. Trauma is a common category, but the specific trauma, how you were exposed to it, what exactly it was, what were the circumstances, that varies so much with people. So I was able to consider things with a spouse, wrote a letter to one of my church elders. I tend to get hypergraphia and write it out. The advantage to writing it out is that you won't forget your thoughts and feelings in the moment. That's why doing that is so powerful. My wife had to do this when I was starting to have my issues, they were starting to manifest. The one thing I didn't want to talk about was how we probably couldn't stay in the community that we were in while we were still living in Germany. And I couldn't do that because that community was literally the only place where I had any sense of belonging. That was my community. And while I knew it wasn't perfect and I knew there were problems going forward that we were going to have to eventually deal with, I couldn't wrap my brain around giving that up. Hey, Teapup 1. You are the Hallow Queen. You are indeed the Hallow Queen. So, but what she did, because she realized, she was in tune enough to realize he can't have this conversation because he's lost. I'd lost a lot of my community at that point. And when I finally left the Air Force, I lost most of my, like, the people that I was interacting with on a day-to-day basis. They just stopped talking to me entirely. So I lost that whole community, and I mean that had basically been my world for so long. So she was smart enough to realize that I couldn't take out two communities at the same time. So what she did instead was she wrote down all of her concerns in a letter form. And then she forgot she did it, and we found it 2 years later. So, and I found it, and I read it, and I went to her and said, "You were absolutely right. You were absolutely right. And I'm glad you wrote this down so I could see it and understand, wrap my brain around it and understand it." So she was very happy to see that I'd come around to her side. But yeah, she said, "Yeah, I knew you weren't ready, so I wrote it down." So that concept of writing it out, Noah, that is not a bad thing, because 24 hours from now, the chemicals will have changed in your system. You know, whatever reaction you were initially feeling upon first exposure, and then the reaction you had once you had a little bit of time to process it, how you felt then, and then how you felt after talking to your spouse. It's, you know, distance can create clarity, but it can also help you lose sight of some things. So writing it down, don't apologize for that. I mean, don't say that's a bad thing, because it's going to help you process later, you know, what you were dealing with. I mean, I spent 20 years writing this, and I was not aware until I was going back through and editing it the last time how much I self-therapized with this. I was writing things, I put things in here that only I will be able to make the connection to, that when I read it, I'll go, wow, I remember now what that was. I remember the feeling I had, and it was because I put it in words and didn't realize I'd done that I can do that. This series, all 4 books, this series is really about recovery from trauma, living with trauma. Okay, you know, the different stages you can get stuck in. You know, progressing, relapsing, never making any progress at all, letting it define you, redefining it. This whole series is about that. So, and Noah, it's not an easy thing that you're going to, what you're dealing with is not an easy thing to deal with. So the fact that you understand and realize that that is a challenge that you're going to have to face, that you're going to have to process, the fact that you're aware of that is already a step in the right direction. So many people are so unaware of how things actually truly affect them. So at the very least, I doff my cap to you, sir. You are self-aware enough to realize that you need to process this. Well, I think I'm actually going to get some creative writing done. I know I normally don't do this on this day, but I didn't feel like opening up Minecraft, because this is what I need to be doing the rest of the day. Although almost as soon as this is done, I'm going to be heading to pick up my car. Okay, so I was working on this branch. And then this one. So specifically right here. Okay, so this I can't zoom out so you can see it all, because you wouldn't be able to see anything at that point, even if I selected everything. Can I? No, it won't let me. There's a way to do it, but I can't remember how. So I can select them, and then suddenly they're a little more visible to you because the borders are now a solid color. But as soon as I start to zoom out, you won't be able to see it anymore. So like, watch. See, now that border around it doesn't make any sense. I'd have to go back in to there for you to see it, right? So, but I can at least show you. I can zoom in a little more. Go to 90%. So storyline is fairly straight through here. I then started practicing and experimenting with the idea of multiple paths still somehow leading to the same endpoint, because this is when she leaves to go where she needs to go. This is when she gets to where she needs to go. And so then all these different paths are the different choices that she could make along the way, encounters that she's going to make as a result of her choice. This section is going to have more things worked into it, but here at the end right here, you can see one choice continues along the main story path. The other one branches up here. And while it will continue along the main story path for a little while, this branch is going to end. The decision to go along this branch is one that will lead to a game over, because the character will die. I'm working one potential route back to connect back to the story, but I'm not sure if I'm going to really. But that's something I may go back to and add later. But I don't like these branches to be useless. I don't want you as the player, when you get to that point and you feel like, I don't want to do that, I want to do this, I disagree with this character because she's being immature and she's jumping to conclusions, the same thing she's accusing them of, so I'm going to make her listen. I'm going to make her listen, as an example. Well, in that particular case, one of those two paths is the successful one, and the other one is going to lead to a circumstance that's coming up in the story where that character is no longer going to be able to make it away from what's happening. But along the way, something will be noticed that you otherwise would not have noticed. So then when you go back and you get to the same choice point, and the same choice point right here, and you choose to go the other way, as you're going along, you'll know that thing that you saw, that witnessed or whatever, is still there. So then there will be a secondary branch that comes off to allow you to make sure you can take care of that, grab it, whatever it is, and then come back to the main story path. So it's not a complete loss. It's in some cases it's going to be an object. Like there's one object that you get presented to you 3 times. One of them is you only get that option if you take a particular path that is a side path that is not going to continue on. So and then you realize that object is there. So when you go back the second time, you can still figure out a way. There will still be a way for you to get it then, but you can skip it, and it's not going to be bad for the end of the story, because there will be another point in the story where someone is going to give it to you. So there's a guarantee that you will have this object, or at least have the option of taking this object. And then a third point where you have to then make a decision, am I still going to keep this object? Now, it doesn't mean you can't get to the end properly, it just changes how the end is experienced. So I'm trying to work little things like that in there, where you can have an object earlier that can actually help you as you go throughout, but is not necessary. But when you get to the end of the story, having it or not having it is going to alter how you experience the final scenes. Writing this way is very complicated, because I have to go through each of these scenes. So when you look at the main path, this is how I would write the story. So I've written the story out. This is how I would write the story myself. Now I'm going back through, and at each point, I decided that she should do this. But what are some other decisions she could make? So then I go, okay, let's work those decisions in, and let's see how it works with the story. Can she make this decision and still bring it back to the main path, or does it create this alternate reality where she could still get to the end, but I have to now account for this entire alternate reality? Or is it just one that it creates an alternate reality where she doesn't make it through, as an example? Or it's a dead end. It could be a dead end that you then have to actually backtrack from. It's not just the game over, gotta go back and restart. It's you've reached the end of this story branch and you get nothing for it, or so you think. It's a very interesting way to approach a story. So I think they wanted me to focus on the choices first, to pick all the choices, and I couldn't do that with the story. I needed to have the whole story laid out. This whole first episode, I've got the entire 12 episode story laid out, because then I know what the ideal story is, and from there I can make branches and see, can I really... So here's an example right here. Okay, so this choice right here, this looks like it's a huge decision, because look, it splits the path, and you'll notice they're identical, right? So this splits the path entirely. This is actually one of the simplest choices in the entire story in terms of what it is and what you'll be choosing and how you'll be focusing on it. Simplest choice. One of the absolute simplest. It's not like you're picking something that's going to be, I pick one and so dies, I pick the other and so lives, but someone else dies. No, this is one of those little everyday things that you're going to encounter. Like, do I want to do it this way or do I want to do it this way? And it creates two realities based on that are different based on how you pick. Because how you choose to do this one thing is going to mean that you either have access to something or you don't have access. You have information readily available, whereas you don't, and you have to reconstruct it. Things like that. And then it gets even more complicated, because the pathing splits again on each path, and then it splits again, and then it splits again. But they're all still paths that can get you to the end. It's just on some of those paths, some people will be there, some people won't. I have to account for all of them. It's so complicated. And I'm trying to do it in an organized fashion. Okay. So, and on the left, what you see is the actual document where I'm writing everything out, and I make all of the scenes here that you see here. I make their title, their numbering match. So when I go into this one right here, you'll see at the top, there's a numbering. So it says Chapter 3, Scene 2, Echo. So it's Scene 2, Part E, Part Echo, Part A. It's Part A of E. And you see the choices down here. EB, Scene 2, F. So you're skipping around. So that's how. So that whatever that title is at the top, over here on this side, over here on this document in Scrivener, that little bit right there, that's the same. It's identical. So then when I'm looking through here, I know where I am on here. It's tedious, but it's been very beneficial in terms of trying to keep track of who's doing what where. A lot of the background, the nitty-gritty work of writing, it's kind of, when you talk about it, it's kind of hit or miss. Some people really want to hear it. Some people are they're going to enjoy that background information. But for some, it will open it up. You'll be like, I watched the recent the Age of Resistance, the Dark Crystal TV show on Netflix. Then I watched the making of. Watching the making of didn't detract from the experience. Now I'm seeing exactly what they had to do it, and it just enriches that experience. Some people that works that way, other people it doesn't. It removes some of the magic, the mystery. Which one? The Dark Crystal? Oh, if you're asking how was that series, amazing. The writing was some of the best I've seen on TV in a long time. And I've seen some good writing, but this was the absolute best. Now, mind you, I tend to judge writing. Yeah, I tend to judge writing with a little bit more of a critical eye. So you have to take what I say with a grain of salt. The show has been accused of being being commentary on certain things, and in the making of, there's this little moment where somebody has a response to that. In which I had to pause. I went back because I wanted to see exactly what it was, and I just laughed. Like, yeah, I can see how people would be assuming that this show is taking this stance. And then this person says this show is not taking this stance. This is the stance it's taking. And you look at it and go, Well, yeah, that's actually what you should be talking about, not what we thought you were talking about. The social propaganda side of Dark Crystal Age of Resistance, it is very, very light. It's very light. It's a very broad brush that they're drawing here when it comes to there's big issues. There's some big issues there, but there's a lot of other things. There's a moment actually and they highlighted a lot in the making of. There's a moment in it where they very clearly make a stand on consent. Like there's a character that comes in and says, that person said no, and makes it stop. Now it's not anything too adult. It's not even rated that high. I think it's no higher than TV 14. The most subtle of subtext can flavor a person's real experiences. Yes. There were several moments in that show where I had to check myself out because it was hitting on issues that were potentially triggering for me. But that's my experience. But they were very, and the Jim Henson Company. Now you say that, but actually I could show you proof that that's not true. That's not true. Truer now. That's always been true. I do not buy into the school of thought that it's worse now than it was before, because I can go back and show you like things that we have newspaper evidence of to show you. Really? You think this is new? Look what they were saying back then. Look what they were saying 180 years ago. Can you tell if I took the date off and just put the words up, would you be able to tell that and remove the specific identifying things? It just made it a little more broad, general. Would you be able to tell when this was written? Or was it written more recently, or was it written about a past event? You wouldn't be able to tell. The most common example I would give is it was an election. Which one? It was the Andrew Jackson, either the original election, his attempt at re-election. I can't remember. But the media firestorm that came out was, you could have taken what they were saying and put it into any election in the U.S. in the past 20 years, and it would have been dead on right. Just change the names to whoever it was running against each other. So worse now, maybe. Now the prevalence of communication, that means that the information can get a lot more places a lot faster. But I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. Yeah. As a student of history, I don't think that while I agree I wouldn't necessarily say the power of online communication has increased, because at this point everybody pretty much knows that you can't trust most things that you read, and everything that people say on there, it has to be taken with a grain of salt because there's so much you're missing in context. That's just generally assumed now. The prevalence of online communication, now that has definitely increased, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that a more informed public is a threat to those who would dominate. So having more ready access to information and ways to communicate it to get around the limitations that they faced in the past, not a problem at all. And I think being able to post videos on the internet because the news won't, I think that's a good thing. And if you're at least aware that, I mean, let's be honest here. Every video, every story, every word, every picture, all communication is designed to change your opinion or affect your opinion in some way. No form of communication is free of that. And that has been true since whatever you consider the beginning. If you consider the beginning to be the biblical one, you consider the beginning to be something else, whatever. Whatever your version of recorded history records as the beginning of interactions between humans, Everything has been about manipulating the opinion of the other person in your favor. I mean, the best way to describe politicians is, I want power over you so that I can do this. That's what and they like to coax it in these words that don't say that so much, but that's really what it comes down to is, I want the power that you have to give me to do this. So asking the question of someone who is running for office, what are you going to do with the power that you are demanding that we give you? Changes the entire paradigm of that conversation when you make them talk about it in those terms. You want power over me that I have to cede to you. What are you going to do with that power? Suddenly, that conversation is a lot more realistic and a lot more hitting closer to the truth and home than those people are really prepared to deal with. I mean, after all, isn't that why they say never speak the truth in politics? Because once you speak the truth, you've taken a side. Okay. So this is that path right here. So she decides she doesn't want to wait around. Tired of being there, and heads out the door. Yeah, this is where she... So this particular path, which is this bottom path right here of this side branch, this is the one where she more directly gets to the thing, the one thing that's going to make this branch not wasted. Up here, it's a little more convoluted, but it will eventually connect back. Now, a lot of time this year, close to actual politicians in my area, they're all pretty focused on power. That's all they are. That is what politics is. Anybody who's telling you something different is just lying to you. Politics is the art of convincing people to cede power over their lives to them. That is all it is. And if people would just be point blank upfront in asking the questions, not couch their things, not say, what are you going to do with the power that you are essentially demanding I cede to you? Some are asking, most are demanding. Well, yeah, because money makes the world go round. If you want to figure out where a person's motivations lie, follow the money. Follow their votes. See where follow the things that you can actually see a record of, like voting patterns, what they do with the money or power that's already been given to them. That's the only way you're going to know. You can't listen to them because they're not going to say the truth. Because every time they do speak the truth, everybody just absolutely rips them apart. I mean, the reason why politicians talk the way they are now is because we've basically created in them this fear of, if I say the wrong thing, I'm done. Well, I'm not going to go down that subject. That's a little bit more... I would have to actually look into the recent court case. I think the entire war on drugs has been botched, just like the war on poverty. Sorry, I'm not. I'm actually trying to formulate, what I want to happen in this scene as I'm talking. So if I get a little quiet, that's why. I don't need the if you want to share them, you can, but I don't really need the particulars. In my opinion is, everybody who's in the game has something to gain from gaming the system. No one is innocent of it. And the sooner we just accept that's a part of that. Humankind is not naturally good. If you start from the assumption that humankind is not naturally good, then you're going to you approach everything differently. We all would like to think that we're all naturally good people, but I mean, I can shoot that down with one question. Do you have to teach your kid to lie? do you? Or do they just start doing it and you have to reinforce in them they have to tell the truth? Even people who like to pretend that they didn't have to do that with their kids are just lying to themselves. They had to at some point, because the kid is going to figure out that saying a version of the story that isn't going to get you upset is easier than dealing with you upset. They learned that at a very early age, and then we have to train that out of them. But it's true with every kid. At some point, every kid, if you want, even I could go all the way back to the very beginning of their life. How many times have you, as a parent, gone to your kid, your crying baby, and realized that there was nothing wrong? They were just crying because they figured out that if they cried, you would come to them. That is a lie. They're using the call for, I need help, I need something, to get you to just come pay attention to them. They can't even verbalize what it is they're feeling, really. They just have to use the same signal every single time. And they are already, they learn at a very, very early age. We're talking months old. That by misusing that signal, they can get what they want. Now, how much they understand what it is they're doing, I would say probably none. None of them understand. They just realize that by doing it, they get taken care of. Very innocent reason, but they're still doing it that way. They're still using it that way. So the idea here along this branch is that she's going to have the opportunity to save somebody that would otherwise perish in this the events that are laying out down here. But she's not, if you just stick to the path, the straight path, you won't be aware that they are there. But by making this choice and going up this path, you're exposed to the information that they're there. So then when you go back and play through this way, you realize, wait a minute, this is my chance. And then you go make this decision, which would be, you can make the decision to do it, or you can just keep going. And it would just be a small little branch off and then come back. So trying to make choices, give you guys choices that you actually are choosing, you have some choice in, real choice, while still progressing the story forward. Very complicated. And so how I do this is I'll write like a brief paragraph of the entire scene. So this is scene 1, path 2, branch 2, scene 1, C. So part C of it. So you can see this. I'm going up here. This is path 2. So right here. So this right here, that's path 2. Whereas path 1 is this one. So path 2 leads her up to here. And when we get to here, a decision is made. That creates branch A, branch B. So this is branch B. And this is the second, or branch 2. So branch 1, branch 2. And so then inside that, in branch 2, because this scene right here is in a different scene. So then scene 2F, and now we're in chapter 4. So we were all in chapter 3 until now. So now chapter 4, you've gone into chapter 4 on an entirely different entrance. So if you'd stayed on the main path, you would have made it to chapter 4 on a different path. But this one is a completely separate path. So, and that's A. So if you look at all of these right here, so that's A on branch, and then you go to branch 1, that's B, C, and then you get these. And then on this other one, this is A, and this is branch 2, but scene B. So A, B, C. That's how I'm organizing it. It may have to be the sequences may have to be reorganized again later. I don't know. Eventually, they're the titles. They're going to have a title. Like this, the title of this scene. What is happening in this scene, which is something that's part of the thing that they won't see as they're doing it, because they're just going to see when I go into these things. When I go into this tile right here, you see how it says there's these words are right here. So it says stay and wait for a task, and then it's going to this scene, right? So now if I go into this one right here and click play, stay and wait for a task, find a way to be useful. So you don't realize what it is. So those patterns, I think, actually don't matter to you. It's more informative for me and the game developer. Because when I go to there, this is just what happens here. But you'll notice right here, I haven't given this next one. I haven't given you a choice of how to go on next, what they're going to call these, because this is just a straight. There isn't any branch off of this. You go through this scene to this scene, this part of the scene, and then in this scene, you get 3 choices. But then I've named them again, right? So it's, think of it as like turning the page for right now. Eventually, all of these things that are in a straight line are going to be, when you see this, the way the game's going to have it is there will be a background image and you're kind of scrolling the text up until you get to a choice. Then you tap the choice you want based on whether or not you're still in the same scene. Maybe you've ended the chapter and you're in a new location. The picture may stay the same. The picture may change to something else. It may narrow into a particular location in the previous scene that you had, the image there. But then the text will start again at the top and it'll scroll until I give you another choice. That's how the game will work. I actually had to ask them that. It took getting into a phone call for him to understand what I was asking, because I kept saying, these tiles, all of these little tiles right here, straight in a row. I think there's a bunch of them, all the way to there, all straight. You don't get a choice until the very last one right here. Here, let me move this up here. So this last one right here is where you finally get a choice. Change that. So this is presently one long sequence. I had to ask him, are they going to be swiping to another page? Are these all individual pages? How does this work? And it took getting him into a phone call for him to finally understand what I was asking. And that's when he said, oh, no, it's going to be depending on how you want it, but it's most likely going to be scrolling text. They scroll the text until they get to a choice that you give them. Boom. So yeah, so this part of the scene, I will kind of write out a short paragraph of what I want the scene to encapsulate. Then I will just break it into bullet points. And usually when I break it into bullet points, it starts to expand. So this first part is me shooting the breeze. The second part is where I take that shooting the breeze and put it into bullet points, which the bullet points are then copied into the tiles over here. As I'm doing the bullet points, I might realize, oh, wait a minute, I want to add this, and then I'll go back and modify the shooting the breeze text to include that. It may take me going a couple more scenes before I realize, oh, wait a minute, this is a better idea, and I'll go back and I'll modify all of those bullet points and have to account for it. I realize watching me sit here and think and write is not the most entertaining thing you could encounter, but it is what it is. So this particular, okay, so essentially, if you're trying to see how these are going to fit into this up here, really, this should be all the way over here. Because this path is going to lead to this path. It's just been trying to give you the idea that you have some more choice in how you get to where you're going. I have to create what looks like two equal paths, but in the reality, and when you're looking behind the scenes, you realize this is just a more convoluted way to get to here. Because this is the branch, once they're joined back together, this whole branch is going to end at one single point. I haven't really, I think I could possibly make multiple paths to that one single endpoint, but it's going to end, this path is going to end with a specific circumstance that going on this bottom path, the character avoids. But the knowledge gained here, I can create a little side path down here where they can choose to go take action on what they now know and learned, or continue on. Giving you guys the power of choice is what makes this so complicated. Okay. I think that will do for this one for now. So we'll go create the next part of this scene. Generally with the parts of the scene, I like to try to have them, you'll have a whole setting. Think of a TV show where you have the main set where they're doing things, but you might have someone go off into a side room, like the kitchen, right next door. So you're not going to do a fade to black, come back up in the other room. They're just going to switch to a camera in that room. That's how I'm trying to do this. If they're going to change where they are. So she starts on the street, and I may break this up a little bit more so that the first part, C is on the street, D is inside the building, E is back on the street, whatever, something like that. I try to, but it's not just me breaking them up for the sake of breaking them up to add more tiles. Because without choices, there really isn't a point to having. Some of these may end up getting consolidated. If I don't decide, if I can't figure out a way to put, if there is no place where a choice makes sense to give you the option to have a little more freedom in what you do, then whatever's on this one will get moved to this one. They'll just all get merged. Okay, so now bullet. So I'm not kidding. All I do is take the sentences from here and make them bullet lists. It's the exact same paragraph, I just bullet list them. I can just take it all, copy it right here, and then at each sentence, just hit enter. Saving work. So the first one just allows me to not worry about the bullet points. I just write it out. And then I take these bullet points as they are, and I stick them in the tile. And for those wondering, this software is called Twinery, and I'm using the browser version, but there's also a desktop version. I started using the browser version because the desktop version was having some glitches that I think they fixed. Or B2 C D. By doing that like that, I've now created the next tile. So I can just move on to it when I get to that scene. So, but I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up for now. It's just about the end of the day, and I have some things I need to do. So thanks everybody for hanging out today. I appreciate that was fun. We had talked about a couple different things, just mostly just chatting. I probably could have just picked that as the thing, but I did want to try to do writing, but it's okay. So I will be back. I should be okay for Wednesday night. Wednesday night's fun stream. It's most likely Levelhead because that's what I'm enjoying. I don't play it a lot, so when I do play it, it's always fresh. So I will be back Monday or Wednesday evening for my stream on this channel. Tomorrow, I'm on the Nerd Stash channel at 11 Central, 12 Eastern for 4 hours playing. I'm playing through Kingdom Hearts 12, so you can. Of course, it helps if I'm actually in the thing. So you can find out more there. That's my stream team. That's my pick. That's my Extra Life team. Stream. That's not my actual team on Twitch. My stream team is called Super Funiverse, and it has a lot of different family-friendly, creative streamers. You have coders, you have bakers, you have builders, you have gamers. We're an odd group. I'm a writer and a talker, so. And then on Friday, I normally would be on the Extra Life channel, but this Friday I will be on the Nerd Stash because they're doing their big 60-hour event, which the bot has been posting information about. I know for sure I'm on at 4 o'clock Eastern. I may be opening the event, so I'll be on from 12 to 8. That hasn't been determined yet. So, but seeing some familiar faces out there would be very much appreciated, and I'll talk about it more as the week goes on. Okay, so let's see. I think I saw that. I know Extra Life is live. I know for a fact Extra Life is live, but let's see who else is. Take some of you over and just say, hey, I may just host. So who's Bonsai? I always do Bonsai. Bonsai is on my stream team. And thank you, Guthron Bot, for posting how your money, Extra Life money was used last. Oh yeah, BJ Weiler, he's on the Extra Life channel. Arrow Dash, I think. I'm actually going to raid, or I'm going to host. Raid. I'm going to host. Oh, thank you, Nonodle. I appreciate it. I wish you luck in your recovery. And remember, if you feel the need to talk, just join the Discord. The link is below. There's a thing down below, and you can just say you need to talk about something, and we can give you the role so you can go into that channel and talk for a while, and then when you're done, we'll remove it so you don't have to worry about. And the history is not saved. I have to make sure of that, but the history is not saved. So I'm going to shout out. I keep calling him other things. Okay, cool. Dan Van Dam is one of the streamers on the Nerd Stash. So I'm going to go ahead and host him when I wrap the stream up. I'll go ahead and load him up so I can get past any ads that might pop up as a result. So I will be on the Nerd Stash tomorrow at 11 Central in the morning, playing. I might just brain fart Final Fantasy 12. So thanks everybody, and I'm glad to see you're already in there. So again, remember, if you just need a moment to talk to somebody, just let us know and we can set it up. Okay, thanks. I will catch you guys all next time. We'll see you later. Sorry, the music, although it was set, didn't cooperate.